Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. Brendan Glasheen joined by BJ Cunningham on this Tuesday, September 10th, another day closer to postseason baseball. This is the time of year where you got to really stick it out covering baseball. So thanks to those of you that are tuning in to Payoff Pitch as we wind down this regular season. We have a full 15-game slate on this Tuesday. We'll look at a little different Fade the Public, some history, some historical context that BJ wants to share as we come down the wire here in the regular season. One underdog look, one final bet, but we start with the best bet, full slate. BJ, what jumps out to you?
I'm going to go with the Twins team total over 4.5 at -115. I was projecting a little bit of value on the over here between them and the Angels, but Pablo Lopez has been pitching so good as of late. So I would rather not have to rely on the Angels offense to help me get to this over. So I'd rather just target the Twins team total here against Griffin Canning, who really hasn't been that good this season. ERA over 5, expected ERA at 4.77. And the problem with Canning is that he has not been effective with his fastball. He's gone with the trend of seemingly every pitcher in Major League Baseball and just throwing elevated fastballs at about a 40% rate. But the problem with Canning is that he's throwing 55% of those fastballs outside the zone, which is, a very, very high rate, obviously. But hitters are only swinging at about 21% of those, which is one of the lowest rates in baseball. So you leave that gap about 30% of your pitches that are just outside the zone that hitters are not swinging at. You can see why his walk per 9 rate is getting up closer to 4. And that fastball, when he does throw it in the zone, it's getting hit really hard because it's allowing a 370 expected weighted on base average. The Twins have the third best expected weighted on base average against right-handed fastballs, behind only the Yankees and the Astros. And all of Griffin's Canning's other pitches, his off-speed pitches, are below average by Stuff Plus ratings. And then once you get into the Angels bullpen, over the last 30 days, they have a 4.65 xFIP, which is the second worst mark in Major League Baseball. So I think this is a really good matchup for the Twins, who are very good against right-handed pitching, very good against right-handed fastballs, against a bad starting pitcher and a bad bullpen. Projected them for 5.6 runs. So I like the value on their team total over 4.5 at -115.
Right before we started recording, you told me not to worry about the Twins.
Yeah, they're fine. They just got to get into the postseason, and then we'll be fine. Okay. They have an elite ace right now. Elite ace, good bullpen, good offense. We're okay.
And it's been kind of a clunky offense, right? In terms of this injuries, right? They've had to kind of deal with guys being in and out of the lineup throughout the course of the year. So let's see. Buxton said Monday he's been running without issue. That's good news. So hopefully they get Byron Buxton back. Correa, Monday, very encouraged with his progress, beginning a new type of treatment with the plantar fasciitis in his right foot. Okay. All right. So getting those guys back.
And Royce Lewis has only played 65 games this year. He's one of their best hitters as well. He's been in and out of the lineup due to injuries. He's back in the lineup right now. So if you get all these guys healthy at the same time, this could be really good.
Fair enough. They're getting healthy at the right time, and you like their team total over today against the Angels. All right. Very good. Our Fade the Public segment. This is not a surprise. It feels like we're going back in time to April and May when we're identifying the White Sox being really bad, and that absolutely played out. 91% of the bets, 91% of the money line cash on the Guardians to take down the White Sox. Talked to Zerillo about this yesterday. Just trying to figure out how to map out the American League Central and how basically whoever gets the scheduling break to beat up on the White Sox. That's why we're going to see the Twins, Guardians, and Royals all get in. It's a very good point. It seems very obvious, but even now with baseball trimming division head-to-head games down from 19 to 13 a few years ago, it still benefits the whole division. Yep. But the other side of the spectrum, I said to Sean, well, the other side of the spectrum is you get Dodgers, Padres, and Diamondbacks in the National League, out of the National League West. So there are two ways of looking at it, for sure. The White Sox are dogs. That's not a surprise. They are on the brink of history, and that's kind of why we wanted to discuss. We gave you the data from Action Pro, but
yeah,
go ahead, BJ. What's the historical context here of the White Sox?
I'll give my pick here in a second. But so for those wondering out there, a little trivia. The record for the worst record, double negative there, ever is 1899. The Cleveland Spiders went 20-134. The White Sox are not going to get there. But in the live ball era, the record for most losses in a season is the New York Mets in 1962. It was their first year as an expansion team. The White Sox currently have 113 losses, and they got 17 games left to play in this season. So they would have to go above 500, well above 500, which is something they've never done. They haven't really done most of this season. There's even been a stretch. I can't remember the exact dates on it, but there was a 50-game stretch here towards the end of the season where they went 5-45. Like they're going to legitimately go down as the worst baseball team in the live ball era, which is kind of crazy to think about. If you're someone around my age, like I'm 32, I remember the 2003 Tigers, how truly bad they were. I was looking it up the other day. Mike Maroth, 21 losses as a pitcher. I remember that very vividly as well. So they're just, they're bad. There's no other way to put it, but now they're going to go down as historically bad, as literally the worst team ever in the live ball era. My pick for this game, though, is Jonathan Cannon's on the mound for them, under 3.5 strikeouts. So Cannon is somebody who doesn't generate a lot of he has trouble putting guys away. If you look at his whiff rates, they're actually kind of decent. He has an above average sweeper that he gets around a 30% whiff rate on, but all of his pitches have under a 16% put away percentage. So he can get whiffs early on in the count, but once you get deeper into the count, that's where he tends to struggle. Only a 16% strikeout rate so far this season. The Guardians have the third lowest strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. If you go through and do the math, you'll get to a projection of about 3.5 before taking into account the Guardians' offense. But the fact that they're so low in terms of their strikeout rate really should bring this down to closer to, a projection of about 2.9 and even 3 strikeouts. So it's a low strikeout total, but Cannon's just not somebody who just can't put guys away. So I like under 3.5 strikeouts for him. And you're probably going to get some, the White Sox actually have a pretty easy schedule to end things out. They get 2 series against the Angels, a series against the A's, and then they finish out against the Tigers as well. They have to play the Padres as well. But so there's going to be some interesting prices on them as we get down here towards the end of the season.
Yeah, starting July 10th, and then right before the break is when that slide started that you referenced, the 5-45 over a 50-game stretch.
Like that's impossible in baseball. I get it happens in other sports, when teams are trying to tank, but this is baseball. There's a ton of variance that happens that you should never ever go 5-45 in a 50-game stretch.
It's kind of incredible that they've made it to this point in terms of just working through their awful outside of Crochet, working through their, and I know they got a couple other diamonds in the rough that you guys are locked in on, maybe the bottom of the barrel of the rotation, but that they've made it this far.
They're trying out a lot of young guys. Like, I'll give them credit for that. They're not just, picking up a bunch of 35-year-olds and just throwing them out there. Like, they're not picking up the Jake Arrietas of the world. Like, they're actually pitching their young guys and trying to see if they work. So credit to them on that front.
Look, the Tigers were in the World Series against the Cardinals in what year was that? 06?
Yep.
No.
The Tigers drafted Justin Verlander after that historically bad season. So
right. No, 06, that wasn't 06. 06 was the White Sox. No, 05 was the White Sox. 06 was Cardinals Tigers.
Yep.
Okay, so look, there's your hope if you're a White Sox fan. Hey, and this has happened in baseball. Like the Astros did it, tear it down, build it back up. There's another good example of that, and I'm blanking as to why I can't think of the team. In recent memory, the Astros. The Orioles. The Orioles too.
Orioles have done
completely sucked for half a decade.
You're seeing it now. They got so many top 5 picks, and now they've all come up to the big leagues, and now they're good.
Yeah, easy peasy.
Easy game, right?
Jeez, like it's not quite the right. We're in football season, but you see these teams that try to get high draft picks. That usually doesn't work in that league, but baseball, you can build up your system, hit a couple of draft picks, you're okay. Okay, so there you go. Not taking the White Sox on the fade the public side of things, but an under on the strikeout prop for Jonathan Cannon. underdog of the day, BJ.
Yeah, this is a good game, or a good series at least. The Royals and the Yankees. I like the Royals at plus 120. Seth Lugo is a negative regression candidate. ERA at 3, expected ERA is at 3.8 though. That makes him above average starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. He's also a very difficult pitcher to prepare for because although his fastball and his sinker are his main 2 pitches, and they haven't really been that good by Stuff Plus or whatever, he has essentially 4 different breaking balls that he throws. He throws a curveball, a slider, a sweeper, and a slurve. Like, that's very, very difficult to prepare for as a hitter. And if you look through the Yankees, they're obviously the best team in Major League Baseball at hitting fastballs and even sinkers as well. But they get a lot closer to league average when they have to face, a guy who throws a high rate of breaking balls. He'll be going up against Marcus Stroman, who is another negative regression candidate. His ERA is at 4, but his expected ERA is at 4.93. The thing with Stroman is he has to be effective with his sinker to set up all of his other pitches. Because like Lugo, he's got like 4 or 5 different other pitches that he throws after his sinker. He throws his sinker 35% of the time, but it's allowing a 370 expected weighted on base average, and it's below average in terms of Stuff Plus. The Royals have a 378 expected weighted on base average against right-handed sinkers. That is the second best mark in Major League Baseball, behind only the Diamondbacks. So I'm not so sure that the Yankees I don't think they have an edge in terms of starting pitching. Then when you get into the bullpens, the Royals for the first half of the season were one of the worst bullpens in baseball. We talked about them so many times on this podcast about how their Stuff Plus and their xFIP and all this stuff is so below average. Over the last 30 days, they're actually league average in terms of Stuff Plus. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they got Lucas Erceg at the deadline to be their closer. He was not available last night after pitching back-to-back days. He will be available tonight, so if the Royals have a lead, they will have their best reliever available. And the Yankees bullpen has been average to below average all season long. So I'm not so sure that, the Yankees have this, elite offensive advantage or even elite bullpen advantage. And I think the Royals definitely have the pitching advantage. So I projected the Royals closer to even money. So anything plus 115 or better is good enough for me on the Royals tonight.
Okay. Bullpen of the Royals. Well, you mentioned it. The Yankees bullpen's kind of, Holmes has not been good in the back end.
The location plus rating has been bad as of late. They still have really good Stuff Plus ratings. Like, they still have really good pitchers in there. Just the location has been, and the command of all those pitches has been the biggest problem for the Yankees.
Royals on the road, and their bullpen's not much better, right? But all right, you see value, and Stroman. You guys have been down on that guy all year. Has anyone bet for Marcus Stroman on this?
I don't think so. Well, because he's on the Yankees, right? The Yankees always tend to get overvalued in these types of situations. So it's just it's hard to ever get behind somebody like that. Like, there are situations where you have like a negative regression or guy where it's like, maybe I can back him against as an underdog against a certain team if he's getting a high price, but like, he's on the Yankees, he's going to be a favorite almost every single time.
For this next week or so too, like up in the Northeast, like the Bronx getting pretty good, not quite August weather, but they're getting like early summer heat.
Yep.
Wind gusts up to 14 miles per hour. I'm just looking at the total at 8.5. That seems kind of appealing too, and over possibly. But
yeah, I did project 9.2 runs for this game. So if you want to take the over, I think I saw 8.5 was at minus 115. So if that drops down to minus 110 in that range, I could definitely take it.
All right, and one more look from BJ before we go.
Yep. Mets Blue Jays over 8, minus 110. David Peterson, massive negative regression candidate. ERA below 3, expected ERA above 5. The Blue Jays actually have been hitting the ball pretty well as of late. Chris Bassett will be on the mound, who's been, an average to below average starting pitcher and not very effective with his sinker, which, much like I just talked about with Stroman, Bassett needs to have his sinker working really well to set up all of his other pitches because he's got a ton of other pitches. The Mets do hit sinkers very, very well. They hit both fastballs and sinkers against righties at an elite level. And both these bullpens haven't been that good. If you look at the Mets bullpen, They are really regressing here towards the end of the season. The last 30 days, xFIP well over 4. They have the worst location plus rating of any bullpen over the last 30 days, which is a major cause for concern. And the Blue Jays bullpen has been below average to be, bottom 10 for pretty much the whole season. So I think 8 is a little low here for these two starting pitchers and these two bullpens and two offenses that, quite frankly, have been hitting the ball pretty well as of late. So I like over 8 at -110.
Excellent. All right. We've talked about Bassett. Home road splits have been iffy. Home, he's not been as good. The Mets are in the playoffs right now. Did you end up biting on the Mets for?
I didn't, and I'm regretting it. You could go back in history and look at some of the prices that the Mets have had on there to win the World Series. I mean, when they were like 2.5 or 3 games back in the wild card, I think they were like 150 to 1 to win the World Series, which I told you many times I kept staring at it, and I just never did it. And now they're like 40 to 50 to 1 in that range, which I still think, if you look at Pacoda and Fangraphs, they both have the Mets around 2% to win the World Series, which is about 50 to 1, honestly. So I'm not sure there's really much value in it.
Find BJ Cunningham in the Action Network app. Find his work there, as well as his picks for baseball going forward. We appreciate your 5-star ratings and reviews as we come down the stretch here in baseball. And we will be joining you again. We're back to mornings. If you haven't noticed, we're back to mornings because we're getting geared up for playoffs. And with football back, we're just trying to navigate the schedule with night records and whatnot in our other spaces. So join us again Friday morning, 10 a.m. for Payoff Pitch. We are Action Network's MLB betting podcast. For BJ Cunningham, your host, Brendan Glasheen. We'll talk to you again at the end of the week. Thanks for listening.